we didn't want to waste any time getting our vehicles, all our Polaris vehicles, outfitted and ready to go with All Balls products. So right here, what we've got is we've got a set of 8-ball axles, and today we're going to be putting these in the Pro XP, our play car. And you know what? I'm gonna open one of these up, show you what it looks like, and tell you a little bit about it. And then we're gonna do a little install. So pretty nice packaging. Oh man, things are pretty heavy. All right, what do we got here? So this is an All Balls 8-ball series axle. Now they call it an 8-ball series axle because unlike most axles and most CVs that run a 6-ball bearing carrier system, there's a cage, and then inside there's your basically your race, and then there's balls around that, and that's what creates a CV. That's how a CV works. I don't know if you guys are familiar with how a CV works, but basically it's a set of ball bearings in a race that are surrounded by a cage, and then they're captured inside this bell housing here, and that's what allows this thing to turn at a constant velocity. Then it's got the boot on top of that, keeps all the elements out. But the 8-ball axle, a little bit different, because instead of using 6 balls like the industry standard, they've actually gone to 8 balls. So the balls are a little bit smaller, but the cage is a little bit larger. And you know, the idea there is you've got more wear surface, so you should be a little stronger. Your cage is actually thicker and stronger. You know, this axle should be considerably stronger than an OEM unit. It's a real nice coating on it. It's got a really nice powder coat here, and should keep you from the protect it from the elements. And it comes ready to install. It's a complete kit, man. You don't have to mess with the boots. You don't have to mess with anything. Comes with a brand new nut, brand new cotter pin, washers. I mean, it's ready to go. So before we get started on this installation here, I want you guys to know there is a difference between the front and the rear axles on these Pro XPs. Well, they are very, very similar. When they're completely compressed, the front axle is about 5 millimeters longer than the rear axle. So keep that in mind, and if you are installing these axles, make sure you don't get the part numbers confused, because it could cause issues with binding or pulling out of the differential or the transmission. So make sure you get the front in the front and the back in the back, and you'll be good to go. Not a lot of tools really to do this rear axle thing. We're going to need a 19, take the lug nuts off of the wheel. We're going to need a 27 millimeter socket. That's going to take our axle nut off. We need a couple of 15s to get at our brake calipers. We're going to take the brake caliper off. Then a couple of 18s to get the radius rods loose. After that, it's just it's a quick little install. So you're going to want to have on hand. You're going to want to have some anti-seize and probably some Loctite, a pair of wire cutters. And that's about it. Let's get to it.
All right.
Next thing we want to do is we're going to take the brake caliper off. We're also going to take out the cotter pin that holds the axle nut. Now, guys, listen. Cotter pins are one-time use, okay? Cotter pins are not made to be used over. So don't try and save that 14 cents, guys. New cotter pins every time, okay? So we can cut them, but we got to get those things out of there. They get wedged up in there because the axle actually moves, and that's why you use a cotter pin, so this thing does not come loose. So we're going to hit that. Again, guys, one-time use. Okay, let's take off this brake caliper. Careful your knuckles, guys. Also, be careful you don't break off this brake bleeder back in here too. If that thing breaks loose and you're right on it, you can get on it. So you can use a socket on this too, but the bottom one is a little bit tight with a socket. Sometimes you can't get in there with a socket. So one of the few things that you really got to use an end wrench with. But once you get them loose, they come out pretty much easy by hand. Okay. It's also a good time to inspect your brakes, see what your brake pads look like. Okay, so this comes right off. We'll look at those brake pads, and you know, I'm getting down there, but I think I got another ride or two on those. So we're going to leave those alone for today, and that'll be a video for another day. We're going to take our hub off, and again, we're going to use our impact with a 27mm socket. Pop that off. There's a washer back in here, but this should just come right off. Work it a little bit. You want to have a little dead blow hammer around. Sometimes you might have to work that spline loose on that axle. There she comes. Oh, look at that. Well, looks like we're changing a bearing too. What do you know? All right. Well, that complicated things just a little bit, but I think we can still do this. If you go back on our YouTube, you'll find a really, really cool video of Brandon and a little methodology on changing bearings there. We're gonna whip this one out and then we'll get back to the install. Check the link in the description. All right, so we got a little bearing issue here, which we are definitely gonna switch out. But you know what, let's go ahead and get this axle out. I'll show you how to finish getting that out right now. And then we'll attend to the bearing and then get after the install. So 18mm wrench here. Upper and lower radius links. These bolts should slide right out. Okay. All right, with those out of the way, drop your radius links out of the way. Your arm should pull out. Your axle comes over here. Give it one good tug, and she pops right out. There's your old axle. There's our new all balls axle. Let's go change your bearing. So we're gonna get this first all balls axle installed here, and again, we want to use definitely want to use some anti-seize on these on the axle splines. Keeps those axles from getting seized up in there, because these do get some water up in there, and this keeps them from rusting and keeps them from seizing up in that inside that spur gear there. You don't have to get it out. You want to be able to get it out easily. So put these axles in. Basically just line up the splines. Give it a good shove, and that axle is in. So now we'll take the cotter pin off. Take our new axle nut off. Give it a swing. Arm out of the way. Line up that hub there. Put that thing in there like that. That's pretty much ready to go. We're going to get our hub assembly. Same thing with the hub assembly. And if you saw how hard it was to get that bearing out of there, you'll understand why. I'm going to put a little anti-seize here and here. We want those splines to stay lubricated, and we want this bearing surface to stay lubricated. This rides right inside of that bearing, and it's a zero clearance fit. So dirt, moisture gets in there, pretty easy for it to seize up in there. So as you can see, we had to beat that other one off of there. So all right, so now we're going to put our hub on, and she should slide right into place, and she did. Okay, so now we're going to line up our radius rods, get those bolts started. those in place. So keep in mind the direction that these bolts come out. On my particular car, if this bottom bolt goes through with the threads out the back, this rubs on the inside of the wheel. So by running it this way, you have more clearance and you don't have a clearance issue with the wheel. So it's not going to happen with every wheel, but it does with my wheels. So keep that in mind. Always check to make sure everything fits. All radius rods are also a little bit different. So I'd have to wrestle with these just a little bit to get them lined up. Again, 18 millimeter. Tighten those things up. And we're good. Put our hub assembly in place. Installation, I'm actually going to reuse the factory washer on this hub. It's quite a bit thicker. If you notice, this washer has got a concave on one side, so you want it to go in so the convex side is out. That actually puts some preload on that washer as it's tightening that hub. So put that on there. There you go. There's that. Now you can tighten these up pretty tight. You just want to make sure that you line up one of the holes in there with the castle nut grooves so your cotter pin fits through. And again, always use a new cotter pin. They don't really cost hardly any money. And they hold your axle in place. So, there you go. I'm excited to put these new axles to use. We're going to get out this weekend and we're gonna see how they work. So be doing a little trail riding and a little camping. Should be fun. We're excited. That's pretty simple, really. A little Loctite. Always, like I say, it's a good opportunity to inspect your brakes. These do usually line up pretty good. Always want to inspect this plate right here too, make sure it's flat, because sometimes if you get a rock in between your wheel, hits this caliper real hard, it could bend that plate. That'll affect the way your brakes work for sure. So that's something else to keep in mind. Car is ready to ride. We're gonna hit the trails and we will see you out there.